In the coming days at Empire State University, Peter lies on the grass beside Mary Jane during their break between classes, with a lost look on his face. She asks him if something is wrong, which results in them discussing the late Miles Warren and how close he and Peter were before the professor's death. Their conversation is interrupted by Flash Thompson, who arrives to warn them that class is starting. Peter jokingly retorts that he was just getting comfortable, prompting a smirking MJ to tease that he was also getting grass stains on his jeans. As the group walks to class, MJ listens to Flash discuss how he's changed from a brainless jock into someone focused on his studies. Praising his growth, she playfully teases that she's sure the finished product will be worth the wait, but stops short when she spots Harry Osborn. After confirming it's really him, she hugs her friend with a smile, asking why he didn't let them know he'd been released from the institution. Then, as Flash butts in, she slyly notes that he's missed someone, and then watches as Harry greets the gang and assures them that he's all better. While Peter secretly hopes the Green Goblin is gone for good, Flash invites Harry to Betty and Ned's upcoming engagement party, and MJ coerces him further by promising she'll personally guarantee that he'll have a fun time. That evening, Peter and MJ arrive to the engagement party with their arms affectionately locked together, as Jonah rudely greets them at the door, chastising Peter about why he isn't out taking pictures, and complaining about having enough problems already. Looking stunning in a glamorous white dress, MJ immediately disarms Jonah by appealing to his ego with a radiant smile, suggesting he's doing a marvelous impersonation of a famous actor. Jonah instantly falls for her charm, only to be distracted when he spots Flash browsing his music collection. Noticing a tense Harry sitting alone, MJ notes that the man needs cheering up, which is strictly her department. She approaches Harry and warmly strikes up a conversation, and though he hesitates to dwell on the past, he admits he's just happy that they can still be friends. As the two engage in light chatter, Peter greets Betty and Ned, while news of blackouts across the city breaks out over the radio. Then, Robbie joins the conversation with MJ and Harry just before the power suddenly cuts out across the building. Amidst the confusion, Peter slips away to investigate. Inside in the dark, Mary Jane learns from Robbie that Peter headed toward the balcony, but when she goes to check, she finds that it's empty and Peter is gone. Unknown to her, Peter is high above the city as Spider-Man, where he looks down to see the name of the Shocker spelled out across the city. After going after the Shocker, Peter finally returns to Jonah's apartment after the party has ended, only to learn that Mary Jane left and was thoroughly unimpressed by his sudden vanishing act. The next day at the YesU cafeteria, he realizes that he's in the doghouse, as he's been unable to track MJ down all morning, and it's clear that she has been avoiding him like the plague. While debating his food choices in the lunch line, Peter accidentally bumps into someone behind him, turning to find MJ passing by with an icy expression. She completely ignores him when he calls her name, briskly walking away without a backward glance. Abandoning his tray to salvage the relationship, Peter pursues her to the cash register, stating that he wants to talk to her. Recognizing the cold shoulder but feeling defensive, he blurts out that she isn't being fair and pleads to give him a chance to explain. MJ merely scowls and walks away, only stating that she doesn't hear a solitary word he is saying. Peter follows her to a nearby table, where she deliberately avoids eye contact while sipping her drink. Accepting temporary defeat, Peter tells her that if this is how she wants to play it, he isn't going to stand there all day and make a fool of himself. He adds that whenever she's ready to let him apologize, she knows where to find him. At that moment, Flash calls Peter away to another table from across the room, breaking the tension. The following day, Peter spots MJ on campus buying ice cream with Harry and Flash. Determined to make her listen this time, he calls out to the group, asking Harry if they mind if he talks to Mary Jane for a minute. Hearing this, she huffs aloud that if he wants to talk to Mary Jane, he should ask her directly. She turns to Peter, adding that apparently little Mary Jane doesn't count for anything, of course. She's just someone to be brought to parties and ignored while he goes around town snapping his precious photos. She firmly adds that after what he did, she'd have to be out of her mind to let him talk to her. After a brief pause, she humorously gives in, immediately admitting that she is out of her mind. She states that he may talk to her, but he better make it fast. As Flash pulls Harry away to give them privacy, Peter approaches MJ and promises he won't take long, assuring her she won't regret listening. Growing impatient, she tells him to spare the small talk, say what he has to say, and get off her back. When Peter claims that she isn't giving him a chance, she bluntly replies, "Really? Tough," while sitting on the campus steps to sample her ice cream. Peter retorts that this doesn't sound like the MJ who declared all-out war when she thought she was losing him to Gwen Stacy. MJ icily fires back that maybe since then, she realized he wasn't worth fighting for. Hearing this, Peter snaps. He yells that if that's the way she feels, they should just forget the whole thing. Storming off, he declares he's taken too many lumps to keep banging his head against a brick wall, and tells her goodbye. Seeing his raw, emotional outburst, MJ's defenses instantly crumble. She calls out, gently asking him not to go. When a frustrated Peter asks why he should stay, she softly confesses that she lied. He is worth fighting for. Then, flirtatiously offering him her ice cream, she asks if he wants a lick. Stunned by her sudden sweetness, Peter sighs, stating aloud that she drives him crazy. With her playful mood restored, MJ joins Peter for a walk, casually asking what he wants to talk about now that they are on speaking terms. Unsure of what to say, Peter awkwardly brings up the weather while fully owning the cringe. MJ smirks, teasingly retorting what a smooth talker he is. Their banter is interrupted when Ned Leeds joins them. He explains that he's on campus to interview Dr. Bolton, a former ESU football star turned big shot tech wizard who is visiting for homecoming. The pair join Ned and head over to the stadium, and while the science nerds conduct the interview with Bolton, MJ waits patiently from a distance, watching the scene unfold from the bleachers. Later, Peter arrives at the homecoming dance to meet MJ. Cutting loose on the floor with Ned Leeds, she smiles upon spotting Peter and informs him that he's late. When Peter apologetically asks to cut in, she enthusiastically invites him to shake up the joint with her. Peter corrects her, explaining he actually needs to talk to Ned, leaving a confused MJ to ask if she heard him correctly. When he confirms, she folds her arms in disapproval, exclaiming that she hopes the two of them will be very happy together. While Peter quickly talks to Ned about helping Dr. Bolton, he realizes that he's back in the doghouse, and when the conversation ends, he tells Ned he is to get back to Mary Jane. Cautiously approaching her with a sheepish grin, Peter asks if she wants to bury the hatchet. MJ coldly responds that she'd love to, right into his thick head, while digging into her plate of hors d'oeuvres. Peter pleads with her not to open the great divide between them again, and MJ surprisingly agrees, grabbing him to dance on one condition. He pays her back the dance he owes her right now. When she adds that it's their song after all, a bewildered Peter privately questions how their song became kung fu fighting, all while MJ pulls him in close to her for an intimate slow dance, in comical contrast to the upbeat tune. During the dance, Peter spots Bolton leaving from afar as his spider sense suddenly flares, just as a swooning MJ remarks on how dancing so close makes it feel like they are the only two people in the world. However, Peter doesn't respond as he's too distracted on finding a way to leave, causing MJ to ask if he's listening to her. Luckily, Harry Osborn approaches to cut in for a dance, causing a relieved Peter to practically shove MJ into Harry's arms as he bolts away, claiming that he'll be right back with some punch. As Harry sweeps her across the floor, MJ glares back at Peter's retreating figure. Furious at the lame excuse, she fumes that she'll punch him as soon as she gets her hands on him, utterly at a loss for what to say as he vanishes into the crowd. A few days after Peter patches things up with Mary Jane, the day of Betty and Ned's wedding finally arrives. As Peter frantically struggles with his tie while getting dressed, he answers a knock on the door to find MJ waiting on the other side. Seeing that he's not fully dressed, she playfully asks if he's checked his hourglass lately, because he's running late. When Peter tells her that he's struggling to get his tie on, she calmly knots it for him, reassuring him that the stubborn tie should be the worst of his worries. She then offers a genuine apology for how she's acted lately, confessing that she's become so possessive, which is not usually her style, and that she'll try not to let it happen again. Then, after perfectly finishing the tie, she proudly announces that it's neat as the proverbial pin, urging Peter to get his jacket, so they can head out together. A grateful Peter cracks a smile, telling MJ that she'd make someone a wonderful something. Catching his drift, MJ flirtatiously responds that if he's not careful, she may just take him up on that. Then, the two exit the apartment together, closing the door firmly behind them. When they arrive, Peter stands stunned by the massive scale of the building. As he wonders aloud how they will ever locate the correct wedding party room, MJ simply suggests her darling tiger ask the man at the information desk. After finding the room, a starving Peter tells MJ to find Betty while he hunts down some food. MJ wishes him a playful bon appetit, but the second Peter finally manages to grab a plate, she calls out that the ceremony is about to begin, leaving him feeling destined to starve to death. During the ceremony, Peter and MJ stand up front as the best man and maid of honor. While Peter silently wishes Betty good luck, a sympathetic MJ mentally tells Ned to hang in there and to try not to faint before it's over. But just as the officiant asks if anyone can show just cause why the couple should not be wed, a voice cries out to hold it. The entire wedding party turns in shock to see a villain named Mirage, who boldly announces that he is there to rob the place. In the ensuing chaos, Peter covertly uses a web line to flick off the lights so that he can change into Spider-Man. When the lights click back on, a confused MJ wonders where Peter could have vanished to, just before Spider-Man appears from the ceiling above. Following a frantic battle, The villain lies defeated under a glass chandelier, and Peter slips back to MJ's side with the excuse that he ran off to call the police. Relieved, MJ admits that he had her worried to death, adding that his Aunt May was coming apart at the seams. With peace restored, the ceremony continues, and both MJ and Peter watch warmly as Betty and Ned share a kiss after exchanging their wedding vows, followed by the newlyweds riding off into the distance. Watching them go, MJ softly tells Peter how much she admires the couple. Voicing his complete agreement, Peter joins her in calling out to the departing pair, wishing them to enjoy themselves and reminding them to keep in touch. Days later, Dr. Octopus returns to take Aunt May away with him, and having lost their trail, Peter returns to his apartment to patch up his costume while staying glued to the police scanner for any sign of Otto. Shortly after Glory Grant drops by with a fresh homemade cake, Mary Jane buzzes the apartment from the street. Leaning out his window, Peter calls down to ask what she's doing there. MJ fires the question right back and makes her way upstairs. She explains that she just dropped Aunt Anna off at May's apartment, only to find the place a complete disaster area, complete with a gaping hole in the wall and no sign of Aunt May. After she asks why Peter isn't out looking for his aunt, he attempts to play cool, claiming he doesn't know what happened to the apartment and that Aunt May has been out with an old friend since yesterday and is in no danger. Changing the subject, he then offers MJ a slice of cake before it's all gone. Just then, Glory calls out from the kitchen to ask if MJ appreciates home cooking. Startled, MJ turns to find Glory standing there. The two women instantly hit it off, trading compliments on MJ's outfit and Glory's bracelet. As the two bond, Peter takes a phone call from the Daily Bugle, summoning him to the office. Slipping into the next room to covertly throw on his Spider-Man costume under his clothes, Peter then rushes out the door. Seeing him suddenly leave, a bewildered MJ asks where he's going. Announcing that duty calls at the Bugle, Peter tells them to lock up when they leave, and to save him a piece of cake, leaving both MJ and Glory with looks of surprise as he vanishes into the hallway. While out, Peter tracks down Dr. Octopus and a recently returned Hammerhead and rescues Aunt May, who is sent to the hospital for recovery. Soon after, MJ joins Peter to visit May, apologetically confessing that hospitals depress her and admitting she'd rather be where it's light, bright, and things are swinging. Peter smiles and promises to buy her the most swinging milkshake in town right after their visit. Walking into May's room, the couple are pleasantly surprised to find Harry Osborn and Liz Allen already there. MJ warmly greets May, handing over a stack of movie magazines to help pass the time. Seeing the gift, Peter and May playfully joke about which famous Hollywood stars his aunt is currently following the latest dirt on. Afterward, May looks up at the couple and sincerely asks how the two of them are getting along lately. MJ playfully remarks that Peter still has a few rough corners, prompting Peter to quickly add that MJ is actively working on rounding them off, to which May immediately fires back that it's about time. After wrapping up the visit and exchanging their goodbyes, the group departs the hospital together. Then, after a quick discussion about planning a future double date with Harry and Liz, Peter and MJ set off on their mission to find the ultimate milkshake. Days later, Peter and MJ are enjoying a date at Coney Island, huddled close together in the front row of the Tornado roller coaster. As the car plummets from the highest peak, an unusually tense Peter shrieks that he's going to die, while a beaming MJ leans against him shouting about how much fun the ride is. Peter yells back that it's just great if you're trying to get prematurely white hair. On their rocketing descent, MJ holds fast to Peter, warning him to be serious or she'll never take him on one of these again, to which Peter eagerly asks her to make it a promise. As the coaster slows to a stop, MJ playfully tells him he can peel his sweaty fingers from the handrail now. Peter refuses, muttering that he isn't letting go of anything until his feet are planted firmly back on the earth. Stepping off the ride, an exuberant MJ insists it wasn't that bad and asks if he wants to go again, prompting Peter to jokingly ask if she wants a fat lip instead. MJ declines, declaring that what she really wants is a hot dog with the works. As Peter escorts MJ down the block to Nathan's restaurant, they are joined by Harry and Liz. Once the group grabs their food, Peter apologizes for his behavior on the coaster, admitting he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. MJ smartly replies that what she likes most about him is how cute he is when he's paranoid. The moment is cut short, however, when Peter spots a man getting shot mid-ride on the coaster off in the distance. Instantly abandoning his date, Peter rushes toward the scene, telling MJ to stay with Harry and Liz while he secures photos for the Bugle. Watching him abruptly sprint away again, a deeply frustrated MJ sighs that it's another date shot to tiny little pieces, adding that it's starting to become a very nasty habit. Meanwhile, as Peter covertly changes into costume, he can't blame MJ for being ticked off, as he doesn't think he'd like playing second fiddle to somebody's secret identity either. The next morning at ESU, MJ greets Peter by asking if he finished the oh-so-important photo assignment that he abandoned her for, all while making an elaborate show of flirting with Flash Thompson as he lounges on the campus lawn. Peter greets her back, asking what the two of them are doing besides getting grass stains on their clothes. After Flash claims they are simply communing with nature and soaking up the sun, MJ suggests that Peter should try it sometime, when he's not rushing off to win the Pulitzer Prize. When Peter attempts to explain the events of the previous night, MJ cuts him off to remind him of her recent promise to stop playing the possessive she-cat and that she always keeps her word. When Flash notices they're running late, he begins to escort MJ toward their next class. MJ turns back to Peter with a sugary, exaggerated smile, telling him that whenever he manages to have a free night, he should call her, reminding him that her number is in the book. After Flash tosses back that he'll see him around, Peter grits his teeth in frustration, thinking sarcastically that this is exactly what he needs, the classic "you're not the only fish in the sea" routine. The next day, Peter arrives at MJ's apartment holding a bouquet of flowers to patch things up, only to find she isn't there. Walking home, he plays a miserable game of she loves me not, while picking off the petals. By the time he reaches his building, he admits he brought this on himself and can't blame MJ for preferring Flash's company when Flash is actually there instead of constantly running off to play the hero. Opening his door, Peter realizes that one day soon, he's going to have to choose between the lady or the spider. Suddenly, he is startled by shouts of surprise from a room full of smiling friends and family, with MJ standing front and center, watching him with a delighted smile. Astonished, Peter looks around at a fully furnished apartment, learning that everyone pitched in to help. After checking out the furniture and testing the lounge chair, Peter thanks Glory for the idea and shares a word with his landlady, Mrs. Muggins, who he says is one of a kind. MJ approaches from behind, warmly telling him that she isn't the only one and calling him Tiger. Peter greets her anxiously in return, mentioning he had stopped by her place to talk. When she asks about what, he begins to say about them and their relationship, but before he can finish, Flash wanders over, splitting MJ's attention to hand him a soda. Trying to salvage the moment, Peter asks if they can sit down. When they do, Flash immediately asks to join, and MJ invites him to grab a seat. Then, Peter tries to casually drape his arm behind MJ on the sofa, only to find Flash's arm already planted there. Excusing himself awkwardly, a miserable Peter realizes he can't take much more of this. With her old mask of carefree indifference in place, MJ sits between the two men sipping her drink, while Flash casually asks Peter if he's irritated about something. Snapping, Peter stands up and sharply retorts what in the world could give Flash that idea. Meanwhile, suddenly noticing how genuinely bothered Peter has become, MJ's mask drops for a brief moment, and she calls out to him with real concern. But it's too late, as Peter storms off to the other room, brushing off Robbie Robertson's gentle reassurance that things will work themselves out. Escaping to the rooftop for some air, Peter laughs bitterly over the sad state of his love life while reflecting on his past with Betty and Gwen. He then deeply questions where he stands with MJ, wondering how she truly feels about him, and also how he feels about her. Just then, he sees Harry and Liz on the roof, and takes note of how happy they are after everything they've been through. Heading back inside, Peter figures that maybe Robbie was right after all. It's nice to know that things are working themselves out for someone. Days later, Peter snaps photos of a speech as Spider-Man on campus for the Bugle when the tarantula suddenly strikes in an attempt to kidnap the university's vice-chancellor. Peter is alarmed to see Mary Jane and Flash in the crowd, and is determined to take out the tarantula before MJ gets hurt. Throwing himself between the villain and his friends, he is relieved to see that Flash is at least dragging MJ away from the danger. However, during the battle, Flash decides to try to play hero and rescue the Chancellor while telling MJ to stay back. She pleads with him not to go, exclaiming that this isn't a freaky football game, but Flash doesn't listen and immediately gets punched out as the tarantula manages to escape with his hostage. An hour later, Peter returns home, briefly stopping to visit his neighbor Glory Grant, and as he leaves, he finds MJ in the hallway who has come to visit. When she asks them what's new and exciting, Peter answers not much, unless she's decided to bury the hatchet and be friends again. MJ plays innocent, claiming she doesn't have a hatchet, and states that he must have an overactive imagination. But Peter doesn't buy the act, and brings up how she's been seeing Flash lately. Cutting in, Glory tells MJ not to answer, explaining that she doesn't want to hear this. With the conversation dropped, the three head toward City Hall while on a search for job opportunities, but when they arrive, Peter's spider sense suddenly goes off. Spotting the getaway car used by the tarantula nearby, Peter apologizes as he abruptly leaves, claiming that he just remembered he must call the hospital about his Aunt May. As a confused Glory responds that they'll catch him outside afterward, MJ simply watches without a word, knowing the vanishing routine all too well. Once free to act, Peter tracks down the tarantula, decisively taking down the villain and putting an end to his schemes. Soon after Aunt May gets out of the hospital, Peter goes to visit and runs into Aunt Anna. With a saddened frown, Anna asks if something has happened between him and Mary Jane. Peter defensively snaps that she should ask MJ that question, but as he begins to complain further, he catches himself, admitting that it's partly his fault too before leaving dejectedly. Later, Peter runs into Flash on the street, who is on his way to see Mary Jane. Announcing that he's fed up with Flash chasing after his girl, Peter tells him to stop or there will be trouble between them. But Flash simply states that he had no idea as he thought that MJ was a free agent, or that's the way she made it seem before he went out with her. He further states that if he had known there was still a thing between them, he would never have cut in. Then, after the two shake hands as friends, Flash declares that he's going to have a chat with their little Ms. Watson, as he's one ex-soldier that doesn't like being played for a chump. That evening, Mary Jane accepts Peter's invitation to join him to the planetarium, and as they walk together along the quiet street, Peter states that he's glad she could make it. When MJ casually answers that she didn't have anything else to do, Peter snaps back in cold sarcasm, retorting that he's amazed that she didn't have another heavy date lined up with Flash Thompson. Taken aback by his harsh tone, MJ states that it was cruel, explaining that Flash told her that the two of them talked, and he told her a few other things, not all of them very polite. She then admits that it took more courage than she thought she had to even show up. Acknowledging that Flash must have torn into her pretty badly, Peter remains guarded. He mutters that he wishes he could be more sympathetic, but asks what else did she expect when she started playing games with people's emotions. MJ answers that she never really thought of it as a game, prompting Peter to ask then what did she think she was doing besides churning his guts. With her carefree facade beginning to slip away, MJ stutters over her words to answer, finally confessing that she doesn't know. In frustration, Peter responds that she doesn't know a lot of things, but then again, neither does he, and then asks about the status of their relationship, unsure of who they are together these days. MJ confesses that she honestly can't tell him, explaining that it started so simply between the two of them. He had lost Gwen Stacy and needed a friend, someone to lean on. But then he kissed her goodbye when he went to Paris, and suddenly, he became something more, and she didn't know how to handle a real relationship like that. Then, in a clue to her broken past, MJ states that all her life, she had lived as the happy-go-lucky Mary Jane Watson, no strings, no obligations, and no responsibilities. Attempting to convey that she's always been safe, not demanding anyone's commitment, MJ states that she's never taken anything from anyone that they didn't offer her first. In realization that MJ's defense mechanism also means that she never fully invests in anyone, Peter bluntly retorts that that's the point. She doesn't really give anything to anyone either. As they arrive at their destination, MJ fully opens up, sincerely asking Peter what they do now and where they go from here. She admits that she looks around and sees all their friends getting together, Ned and Betty getting married, Harry and Liz completely starry-eyed. Then, suddenly recalling the recent painful memories, MJ turns to Peter, reminding him how he keeps running out on her to take his precious photos. Expressing her raw vulnerability, she explains that his disappearances always trigger her to feel possessive, and she hates herself for it. And then she hates him for making her feel that way, leaving them to just spin in bigger and bigger circles. She then shifts her attention to the present, asking Peter if the seats before them are theirs. Peter confirms they are, suggesting they get comfortable as the show is about to begin. As the Lazarium concert gets underway, Peter quietly circles back to MJ's question of where they go from here. He suggests that they might be better off just letting things ride for a while and letting the water find its own level, implying they don't need to have everything figured out to keep their relationship going. Relaxing, MJ agrees, softly calling him Tiger. Suddenly, their intimate moment is cut short when a few nearby customers scold them, complaining that they came to watch the show and telling them to finish their soap opera at home. As Peter and MJ look at each other in awkward embarrassment, Peter quickly apologizes to the frustrated crowd. Turning back to the show, Peter quietly whispers to MJ that no matter what happens, he is glad they had this talk, explaining that for the first time in a while, he can actually see light at the end of the tunnel. MJ whispers back with a warm smile that she can as well, calling him handsome. But in that exact moment, the lights suddenly plunge into total darkness. Alarmed and incredibly embarrassed, Peter tells MJ she isn't going to believe this, but he has to run off to take his precious photos again. However, MJ graciously tells him she will be fine and to go do what he has to do, promising that this time, she understands. As Peter runs off, he is flooded with a newfound sense of relief, thinking that life might actually get simpler with this new understanding, and marveling at how easily MJ bought his story without question. Then, a smirk crosses his face as he realizes his mistake, silently hoping she doesn't notice that he didn't bring his camera with him. Slipping away, he soon discovers that Stegron is the source of the power outage, and after a brief battle, the villain makes a quick escape into the night. Around this time, MJ joins Peter as he heads to work at the offices of the Daily Bugle, only to run into Carol Danvers. MJ instantly recognizes her, pointing out that she saw Carol's picture in a Rolling Stone magazine article. She cheerfully adds that Peter was just telling her how Jonah wants to hire Carol as an editor, before warmly introducing her to Peter. After Peter quickly greets Carol and disappears into Jonah's office, Carol asks MJ if Peter is the same news photographer who won the previous year's News Guild Award. MJ beams with pride, declaring that's her PD, before asking Carol if they can talk for a minute. As they chat and walk out onto the city streets, Carol invites MJ up to her penthouse for coffee. Upon stepping inside, MJ is absolutely stunned by the luxurious apartment. She asks Carol how she can afford such a fantastic layout, and Carol explains with a smile that it's all thanks to the royalties from her first book. Recalling what she knows of Carol's impressive background, MJ asks why she left her job as a security consultant at Cape Kennedy to become a writer. Carol admits that she had to, as her inability to capture Captain Marvel had just about destroyed her security career. But as Carol begins to describe her love for writing, she suddenly grows faint and drops the tray of beverages, sending them crashing to the floor. MJ rushes to her side to help, but Carol quickly struggles to regain her composure, insisting it is just a headache. When a worried MJ asks if she should call a doctor, Carol declines and apologetically tells MJ that she should go, promising they will talk more tomorrow. As MJ leaves and tells her to take care, she walks away thinking about how spooky the incident was, entirely unaware of how much more there is to Carol Danvers than meets the eye. After transforming into Ms. Marvel and battling the Scorpion that evening, Carol returns to the Daily Bugle offices the next day, staying late at her desk after the rest of the staff has gone home. Out of nowhere, Mary Jane drops in for a visit. A startled Carol asks MJ how she managed to get into the office, and MJ credits her feminine wiles, that, and the fact that Peter is currently in Jonah's office conducting business. Realizing MJ is hoping to hang out, Carol invites her to grab some dinner, prompting MJ to remark that she thought Carol would never ask. On their way out, MJ checks to ensure Carol really doesn't mind her tagging along. Carol responds that compared to spending a long day listening to Jonah spout his words of wisdom on women's liberation, a conversation with MJ is pure catharsis. As they enter the restaurant, the two women discuss the complex challenge of getting their lives together. Listening closely, Carol tells MJ that behind her flighty facade, she actually has a first-class mind, expressing her full belief that MJ is going to find herself. Touched, MJ asks Carol how she managed to get her own life together. Carol recounts the turbulent events of her career, but finally confesses that her search for her own self-identity has been rocky. As she speaks, MJ notices that Carol has suddenly gone pale. Asking if it's another one of her headaches, a struggling Carol confirms it is, and apologetically leaves to head straight home, leaving a worried MJ sitting alone at the table. Finally, after another day of transforming into Ms. Marvel and fighting supervillains, Carol once again returns to her desk at the Daily Bugle. This time, when Mary Jane spots her and asks if she minds borrowing her office couch, Carol is already in the middle of a terrible migraine. Seeing her friend in agony, MJ urges Carol to sit down while she runs to get her a glass of water. But in too much pain to tolerate the company, Carol quietly tells MJ that she knows she means well, but she feels just as awful as she looks, has a lot of work to finish, and would appreciate being left alone. After MJ leaves, Carol reflects on how nice MJ was, hating that she had to come down on her. But between the headaches and huge workload, Carol realizes that MJ's company is simply more than she can handle right now, marking an end to their brief, supportive friendship at the offices of the Daily Bugle.